Now, it's a week before the budget. We're likely to see some new tax changes announced, but plenty of the implications of previous budget announcements kick in exactly a month's time. It's the 1st of March today, and the 1st of April is often a big changeover moment for the tax system. One of those changes is a new road tax regime for brand new cars. It's a big change that'll mean some hefty first-year charges based on carbon emissions. Stuart Milne is the editor of carbuyer.co.uk, and here he is explaining the car tax changes for us.
If you're thinking about buying a brand new car, you might want to get yourself in gear and get one sooner rather than later. From April 2017, the amount of road tax you'll pay for a new vehicle will change. At the moment, the amount of road tax you pay is calculated on your car's carbon dioxide emissions. That means you'll pay nothing to tax electric cars. The lowest emitting diesels and hybrids are often free or cheap to tax too. Now, the changes don't affect used cars, but for new vehicles, the changes are motoring ahead. From April the 1st, only zero emissions models, such as pure electric and hydrogen-powered cars, will be exempt from the annual charge. All other vehicles, including hybrids, will pay £140 a year. But some new car owners will be paying a premium over the first 5 years. Any car over £40,000 will also have to pay a £310 premium. That'll mean a £450 a year bill for some, and that 5-year premium is still payable for the most expensive electric cars. But if you put the brakes on plans to buy, your old car will still be taxed under the old system.
Well, Peter Smyth is the director of Swansway dealership that's got a network of 23 sites across the Midlands and the North West, and he's with us in studio this morning. Hi there.
Good morning,
Thanks very much for joining us. So some pretty complicated changes. For a lot of people, this will be a bigger tax bill though, won't it?
I think for everybody it'll be a bigger tax bill. And yes, there are a lot of changes and they are very complex. I was trying to get my head around it yesterday with my administration people who deal with this on a day-to-day basis, and in some cases they were scratching their heads.
Do you think people have had enough time to think this one through?
I don't think there is a public awareness of what is actually going to go on. I think the motor trade are trying to make people aware in a bid to increase car sales in March.
And when it comes to this one, are we seeing an increase in car sales at the moment? People getting in their purchases before this tax hike comes in?
I don't think the bandwagon has started to roll yet, but it is starting to gain momentum.
What's the impact on your average family car then?
Well, if I could give you, I've got a couple of examples, but let's take, for example, the average family car, which would say be a 1.6 TDI Volkswagen Golf. Currently, you actually don't pay any road fund licence on that vehicle. When the car is registered, it's subject to a £55 first registration fee, and then it's £20 every year after that. After the 1st of April, however, there'll be a tax of £140 applied to that vehicle plus a first registration fee, so £195, and then it will be £140 per annum thereafter.
What about diesel? Doctors yesterday was calling for significantly higher car tax on diesel.
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it, with everything that has gone on with regard to diesel.
The health concerns.
Well, yes, but undoubtedly we in Europe are judged on the carbon dioxide emissions and not on nitrous oxide emissions. All I can say is that the diesel engine is cleaner now than it's ever been.
Some big changes for people to get their heads around. Is it essentially just looking this one up? And are people likely, do you think, to change the type of car they buy when they do that?
I don't think people will change the type of car because a car purchase is a very emotional thing. But what I would say to people, look very, very carefully before you make a purchase as to how much it's going to cost, because as the other person said, it's very much based on your CO2 emissions. So the actual first year's road fund licence can go from £10 in low CO2 emission cases up to a whacking great £2,000 if you're into sort of like vehicles with over 255 grams per kilometre.
Peter Smyth, Director at the Swansway car dealership. Thank you very much for joining us on Wake Up to Money today. And thank you, all of you, for texting into the programme today. Lots of reaction to that news about Sir Philip Green plugging the gap at BHS. And lots of you saying, like Eddie from Bridgend, that you're quickly losing faith in British business. But Eddie also texts in to say that it's St David's Day today. So a very happy St David's Day to all of our listeners in Wales today. And thank you for downloading the Wake Up to Money podcast from BBC 5 Live. Don't forget that you can leave us a review wherever you've downloaded this podcast from. Just leave a few words, your reactions, your comments on today's programme. We'd really appreciate any feedback you can give us.
On digital and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
bbc.co.uk/5live.